much as I did having the butterflies fly all over on me. Sit back and enjoy. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome back to 2020 Bolingbrook. With me today is Cindy Hennison, also known as the Butterfly Lady. I'm sure many of you have seen her around town at different events. Cindy, welcome.
Thank you.
My first question for you is, how did you get started with these amazing butterflies?
About 12 years ago, we went to Grove Dental here in Bolingbrook, and in the children's area, they had a jar with an egg, a smaller caterpillar, a bigger caterpillar, and a chrysalis. And I was just amazed, and I had asked them, where did you buy the kit? And they said, you don't, you just basically go out and collect them. So I wanted to teach my kids about nature and how fragile it is, and I just started collecting at that point. We go egg hunting, milkweed hunting, caterpillar hunting, and I told my husband, I said, hey, is it okay if we do a 1 month pet? It's just from egg to butterfly, it's 1 month, and he's like, absolutely. Well, that 1 month experiment turned into now 12 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, what is the span from when there's a first egg until they become a butterfly?
1 month.
1 month, that's an entire thing? And
Yes.
then when they become a butterfly, they pretty much fly away then? So
Yes.
they're not your pet any longer?
Right, no, not at all. So they are an egg for just 3 to 5 days. Once they hatch out of the egg, they're a caterpillar or a larvae for up to 2 weeks. Then they turn into a chrysalis, which is different than a cocoon. Butterflies always turn into a chrysalis where moths turn into a cocoon. And then they're in a cocoon anywhere from 7 to 14 days. And then they become a butterfly. And this generation only lasts 1 month. Their whole purpose in life right now is simply to mate and have more babies.
Now, do the butterflies that you pretty much raise, and then they turn into a butterfly, do you see them then when they mate to create a new egg, or are they gone and you got to start all over?
They are gone. They are
Okay.
gone. Yeah. So I always release the butterflies anywhere from 4 to 5 hours. Once they start flying in the kits, then we can go ahead and release them. This one was just born this morning. She emerged this morning. Is she? It is. And you have about a 3-hour window to hold the butterflies before they actually realize that they can fly.
Wow, yes. Oh, they step up, okay.
They don't know how to walk backwards, so as long as you place your fingers in front of her face, she automatically will grab onto you.
How cool is that? Look at how, and I've always loved butterflies. I think they're absolutely beautiful. But it's amazing to hear you talk about from the start until you actually see the beautiful final product.
And the difference between the males and the females is the females have thicker veins. So if she opens up for us, before she won't, she'll have thicker veins compared to the male. And I'm hoping, we might have a male here actually. And that is the male. So the male has 2 pheromone dots on the hind wings, and the females have thicker veins.
Okay, I could see it, the difference there. With the regular veins, not because they have that bigger one down the middle like I'm seeing in here, but it's the ones on the wings that you're talking
All the
about.
black lines are the veins.
Okay.
And it takes about an hour after they emerge. What happens is they end up dropping meconium, which is just extra body fluid, on the bottom of the kit. It's the same thing with babies. It's just extra body fluid. Once they drop that, that's when I let my customers know that they can then gently place their finger underneath them and still hold them upside down for a little bit. After an hour, then you can lift them up.
Oh, okay. So it's an hour then when you're holding them that they have to be
Right.
lifted up. Okay.
Yeah, just so that their wings are completely dry and hardened. They're pretty cool. And until I started this, I had absolutely no idea that the body of the monarch has oats. Can you look at
Wow.
it?
Yes, you see it right in here.
Yeah.
They're like black and it's kind of like, I would say maybe a creamish color. I wouldn't really say white.
And if you, when they open it up, when they open up their wings, it looks like they have a face here too to kind of ward off the predators. If you could see on the back of this one's like the neck, it looks like a face.
Yeah. Now, what are the predators to the butterfly?
Oh, they have plenty. The number one predator that I have found, besides humans, is the takinid fly. It's a fly that looks like a housefly. And what happens is they wait until the caterpillars, it could be anywhere from a couple days old to 2 weeks old. And what they do is they lay their eggs on the caterpillar itself. Those eggs bury themselves into the caterpillar and basically eat the caterpillar. And about a week to 10 days later, what
So they're
happens?
cannibals.
They are. They have to have a live host. And in here we have a takinid fly that just came out of its cocoon. And there's actually a dead caterpillar that they came out of. There were two takinid flies that came out. And they look like little Tic Tacs on the bottom.
Wow.
So last year alone, I saved, or tried to save, 90 different caterpillars that I found in the wild. Out of 90, 89 had takinid flies, maggots come out. So that's one other reason I'm a proponent of raising butterflies indoor versus outside. If you leave them outside to fend for themselves, they only have a 3% chance of surviving. And last year, there was a big controversy over raising them inside. So I said, you know what, my husband bought me built me a beautiful enclosure, had it over the milkweed, and I had, oh God, probably 200 eggs that hatched into caterpillars, and I let them stay and just devoured the milkweed. And about a week into it, a neighbor had hired a chemical company to spray her yard for mosquitoes, and the chemical drifted from her house to my house, killed every single one of them. So, and I am on the no spray zone for mosquito spray. I contacted Clark Chemical to say I don't want it, so technically they can't spray 1 mile away from the house, they have to avoid it. And again, that's mainly because I have an organic garden, and I have all the pollinating plants in my yard as well as a whole bunch of milkweed. I don't want that to be tainted by the chemicals from mosquito sprays.
Now, if somebody wanted to grow milkweed in their yard, what would you suggest they start with? Because that would be a good way to attract the butterfly.
Correct. So not only do you require milkweed, milkweed is the only host plant for the monarch. They cannot eat anything else as a caterpillar. Interesting, caterpillars only eat. Therefore, what happens is they only produce frass, which is caterpillar food. Butterflies could only drink. So in the butterfly stage, they could only pee, which most people don't realize the difference between that. But monarchs do not have a mouth. They do not have teeth. They cannot bite. They do have a proboscis, which uncurls. And what they do is they basically are very finicky eaters. So they do have their preferred plants that they want to eat from, different flowers. They don't eat for the first 24 hours. During the migration period, though, I do have them drink honey and water concoction just to give them a little bit more energy to get going, because they are the only butterfly that migrates, that does a full migration. So all these monarchs, not these, but their great-great-great-grandchildren, there's 5 generations. The last generation that's born in September and October actually fly in Mexico. So going back to your original question, what attracts them? Definitely milkweed is required. There are, I believe, over 160 different varieties of milkweed. Wow. I currently have 13 different varieties. at the house that I actually sell as part of trying to help the monarchs. My preferred one is common. It is a native. It does grow about 6 feet tall. And as you can see, there are some caterpillars on here.
Oh, I see one under the leaf right there.
Yeah, they are definitely eating.
A nice big one right there.
And on the bottom here, one actually turned into a chrysalis.
Ah, okay.
So they typically
Very
eat
cool.
from top to bottom. So the caterpillar knew if it made a chrysalis on the bottom, it wouldn't be as disturbed versus if it made a chrysalis up on the top, right? And in the wild, they typically leave their host plant and will make a chrysalis somewhere else, knowing that there's a lot of predators that just look for milkweed in order for them to become a victim.
Now, how easy is it to grow milkweed? Or should I ask you, is it difficult to
So-
grow milkweed?
Each pod in the fall has over 300 seeds. It needs to be cold stratified for 3 months, so in
Yeah,
the
all right.
winter,
For people, like, I don't know anything about milkweed, so I'm gonna be the dummy here now. What does that mean?
it needs 3 months of cold moist stratification, so it
Okay.
needs our winter. So if you have a pod, if you have milkweed growing, first of all, I would put a rubber band around each pod, just so that your neighbors won't have milkweed growing in their yard. But out of those 300, it's very unlikely that all 300 seeds will make it to milkweed. I personally, this year, this last fall, what I did is I did winter sowing, which basically I took a milk jug, put some wet soil in it, sprinkled some seeds, taped it closed, and left it on my porch for 3-4 months. And then come spring, I had a whole bunch of milkweed. So that I've done. I have more milkweed right now than I know what to do with it. In fact, whoever buys a kit, I'm actually giving them milkweed to help them and to help the monarchs. So, but the sap in the milkweed is actually poisonous, and it does dry clear. And just to show you really quick, if I take a clipping, it's not really milky, but it does dry clear. If I grab one from the top, it should work. Inside of each leaf has,
some moisture.
yeah, and what happens is when you're milkweed hunting, a lot of people will clip leaves, and then if it gets hot out, they'll go ahead and wipe their brow, and it'll your garden dry, and it'll be extremely painful. So what I always tell people who buy milkweed is always wash your hands before and after you handle milkweed, simply because the sap in the milkweed is very dangerous if it gets in your eyes. And my daughter was 1.5 when we started this. She's never had an issue. My son has never had an issue. No one that I personally know has ever had an issue with it. You just good hygiene.
Now, what happens if you, like, all right, a normal kid might go and pick it. What if they put it in their mouth?
They'll probably get a tummy ache.
A tummy ache, that's it, like, you're not gonna have.
Including dogs. If a lot of my customers are like, wow, I'm worried about my dogs. And I'm like, I have dogs that love kale. So now every single plant that they come across, they want to try eating.
Because they think
They
it's a
think
kale.
it's kale, yeah. It does, worst case scenario, it just they get a tummy ache and that's it.
Wow. Now, are your kids still involved in doing the butterflies, or have they outgrown it now?
My son is embarrassed. He's in high school right now. I usually wear wings and a headpiece. And last year he wanted to go to a local restaurant, and he said, well, let's go. It was after the farmer's market. And he said he didn't want to go with me. And I said, let's go. And I said, if you're hungry, you're going with me. He says, no, take off your butterfly costume. And I said, it's almost 9 o'clock. No one is going to be in here. Who cares? And he stood his ground, and I said, fine, stay in the car. Went into it, and I saw that there were 2 high schoolers, 2 girls there, eating, and I I ordered my food and I left and got into the car and he was shaking his head and I said, what's wrong? And he says, Mom, they were taking pictures of you. And I'm like, that's great, it's free publicity, I don't really care. You know, and I get he's in high school. But I do believe that when he starts dating, a lot of the girls, when they find out that I'm the monarch one, they're gonna just want to be in touch with him a little bit more than they should, simply because they want to be able to hold a butterfly.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I didn't know you could hold it like this.
Oh, yeah.
Truthfully, I thought it might just, because I remember seeing them and like I would see people and part of the wing comes off and.
Yeah, my grandfather always used to say you can't touch a butterfly's wing because if you do, it'll die. And I believe that ever since I was younger, until 12 years ago. You can gently grab all four of their wings and gently pull up, and it's not going to harm them. Now, if you squeeze them and rub them, then yes, they have thousands of scales that they do need in order to fly, but I've never had any butterfly not be able to fly after touching them. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you.
they tend to like to crawl upward. She's a little bit younger than he is.
Okay, so she's not ready yet to.
No, so it kind of feels like a spider crawling on you. But yeah, it is pretty cool. They do have 6 pair of legs, and the 2 that you cannot see are right underneath their neck, and it's called bush legs. And basically what happens is when they are near a flower that they want, they may take those 2 little legs and push them to the side in order to get deeper into the flower.
Okay, that's pretty darn good. Now, I've read somewhere that the monarchs now have been put on the endangered species list.
Yes.
And it was just recently.
Yes. So they are definitely endangered. Most people who have milkweed in their yard will cut it down or use chemicals. People who spray their yards for chemicals or mosquitoes or spiders or anything contributes to their decline. This is our 3rd year going chemical free in our yard, and I'm liking it. It doesn't bother the dogs as much, and it's just healthier. It takes 6 years for fireflies to actually come out of the ground on untreated grass. So,
And I just read an article that this is their time now, so they're flying around. You're lucky enough to see them. I haven't seen them in my yard yet, but.
yeah, and if you remember, years ago when you were kids, I remember
With
yards
tons of them.
full. Yes, but everybody wants to spray their yard now and treat it, and it's not healthy for people, it's not healthy for animals, it's just not healthy at all.
Now, I have a question going back to the milkweed. It seems like it's almost like a weed, that it could multiply really quick if you don't keep on top of it.
Correct. So the common milkweed tends to be aggressive, not invasive, because it is a native plant. So it is the most aggressive out of all of the milkweed, but it's not too bad. I have, I'd say maybe 5 that pop up in my lawn. And before my husband cuts the grass, what I do is he informs me that he's about ready to, and either he or I, we have another one that just emerged. Either he or I will go ahead and just pull them out of the grass, and 9 out of 10 times there's going to be an egg on it, because the monarchs prefer to lay eggs on young, tender leaves.
So are these some of the plants that you've pulled out of your yard then, that before he cut the grass, or are these ones you've grown from seed?
These are the ones I've grown from seed.
Okay.
And these are just 6 different varieties. And according to this, I think it's a girl. Let's see. This is a boy.
Oh.
So right now what he's doing is he's working on his proboscis. when they first emerge, their proboscis is split in two. So the first thing they do is they're zipping up their proboscis. And it takes only about a minute.
And you know what, it's like they're so much smaller, and looking at these, this is what's gonna happen before your eyes then.
Yes, this is the magic that happens, exactly. So I have a boy and a girl right now, but yes, they're extremely tiny. And within 10 minutes, he should be just as big as she is, but with softer wings. 'Cause it takes about an hour to harden the wings. But if you look at his bottom, he has claspers, where the females have a notch, kind of like where our ankle would be. And when they do mate, and I have successfully mated several pairs of monarchs, they mate for about 8 to 12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she could lay up to 100 eggs per day. Yeah, but most don't survive in the wild. So what he's doing,
They're so tiny, you would wonder, like, what is the egg, like a speck?
the egg looks like a little white head, but in the shape of a football. So what I do is, I take people in Bolingbrook for egg hunts, just to kind of teach them how to do it. And I always tell them to bring a magnifying glass at first, because until you truly know what an egg looks like, you won't really know unless you really have a close-up. But it's in the shape of a football, and 9 out of 10 times what will happen is they'll lay the egg on the bottom of the leaf about a half an inch inward. And again, it's just because when they come in, just like this one, what they'll do is they will twist their abdomen up and lay the egg while they're holding on inside of the milkweed leaf. But we have found eggs on top of them and even on the buds.
Looks like those two little caterpillars want to get together, huh?
No, they're actually antisocial, so if they're together, yeah. So this one is, and you can't tell the sex of the butterfly or the caterpillar because their organs are internal. So what I'm just doing is I'm just moving them. Because they are truly antisocial. They will nip at each other. So what I do is I never have the different stages of caterpillar in the same container. So I have this 125-gallon tank, and what I do is I create milkweed bouquets, and I let the caterpillars eat the milkweed. Other people will place a leaf in here and allow a couple caterpillars per container on like a vase. I prefer, it's easier to have them eat off the stalk. That way, when they do drop their frass or poop, it usually goes down. So it's a little bit cleaner versus if you have a leaf on the bottom here and they're eating, they're basically eating a leaf that has frass all over it.
Now, to get to this size of the milkweed, how long does that take?
These and the 6?
The big one right here, like from the little ones here, how long did it take for this to get?
That one, I would say that was picked from the wild. That one is just the top of one. Yeah, this is the top of one that was probably about 3 feet tall at this point.
Okay.
So this one started growing, I'd say, in May, so about a month.
Oh, so it really is quick.
It is.
And they flower, don't they?
They do. They will be flowering probably within the next 2 weeks, most of them. And the flowers smell amazing and also attract all pollinators too. So it's just not butterflies. They attract bees and yellow jackets. Yellow jackets is another predator. Praying mantis is another predator. Birds. There are so many different predators, even spiders. Last year, I think it was an orb spider right above my 3 biggest milkweed in my yard, every night I would go out there and check, and there would be an orb spider, so I got to knock off the spider web because it's going to attract the butterfly, and it'll attract the butterfly. And by the next morning, it was there again. So it was a daily fight against me and the orb spider to stay away from the monarchs.
Did you finally win?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. And I had a friend in Bolingbrook who was not too thrilled. She said that they don't really kill the butterflies. But it positioned its giant web about this big over my milkweed. So yeah, it was definitely, it knew what it was doing.
I can remember growing up and we were always like, what, spiders? And my dad used to always tell us, but they eat the other bugs. They're good. You won't have other bugs around if you leave the spiders alone. They don't bother you.
And typically I don't bother spiders when they're outside, even when they're inside, I bring them outside. But when they're positioned on milkweed or above a milkweed, yeah,
Then they're up to no good.
yeah, they're going after the caterpillars. So,
Wow. They are amazing little critters. Now, if I wanted to just start seeing a butterfly, would I see them like in August and then September before they head to Mexico? Or?
so they arrived here this year on May 26th. So usually mid to end of May is when they arrive here in Bolingbrook. And this year, yeah, it was May 26th this year. We found 7 caterpillars on May 26th. My mom helps me, and she's been raising them for probably about 10 years. So she came over and said, well, let's go egg hunting. And we found almost 400 eggs the second day. But ever since then, it's been bone dry. Yeah, we've not, I don't have 1 egg at home right now. We are allowed to look for eggs at different properties in Bolingbrook. So we do have access to lots of milkweed. And there's about 4 of us who go egg hunting in Bolingbrook. It's nice. It's nice.
And your own little club.
Well, you know, anyone can contact me to say, hey, I'd like to learn more, and I have absolutely no problem sending a text saying, hey, we're going to be at this place at this time. If you want to learn, bring the container and let's go. I have absolutely no problem with that.
So you will go out egg hunting up until they get ready to fly to Mexico, and what is that, you mentioned September?
They fly to Mexico typically mid to late October.
Oh, October, okay.
Yeah. So we have about 4-month span with them. So it's pretty nice. And so
But then what do you do then after October and they're all flying to the warm weather?
then I start my seed collecting.
Okay.
So I belong to quite a few seed swapping groups on Facebook, and that's where I end up getting these milkweed seeds from. Is from Facebook seed swapping group, because I don't have access to aquatic or Indian or animal.
Now, I saw somebody was giving away milkweed and they called it pods,
Yes.
and it was a big thing. And, okay, I did take one and I stuck it in a pot and nothing happened.
Right.
So I don't know what the heck I
If it was
did
still
wrong.
in the pot,
Yes.
it was
in the
too
pot.
soon. So they have to dry and be opened. Nature has to open them in order for the seeds to be dark. And again, there's about 300. There's no reason why we need 300.
Okay, see, I didn't know. I stuck the whole pod in the ground and nothing happened to it.
I've been passing seeds out in Bolingbrook for probably the last 3-4 years. And I know the chances that they're going to emerge into a milkweed is slim, but I didn't know how to grow them from seed until this last fall, when I was on one of the butterfly websites, and they had said they had such a good rate with the winter sowing, which using milk jugs, and I truly, my God, I probably had about 150 different jugs.
Wow.
But I did all of my, I love, their number one plant that they like to drink from is Mexican sunflower. It's an annual here. It grows about 5 feet tall, but it has hundreds of beautiful orange flowers. And you can't buy them in any stores. No growers sell them. So it's a hot commodity for sure.
So how would you get its seeds then to plant that?
Oh, seed swap.
Seed swap, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's not like you could go on and what are they having? Bee something or other? I know I used to get some seeds.
Yeah, you could go to a lot of the different seed stores or online, buy them online, but even that, I've tried for years to grow that. This is the first year I was successful with that, and again, I used the winter sowing. I just figured let's toss them in there and see if they make it, and we did.
Wow, well, congratulations.
So, yeah, I think I have over 60 different flowers that attract monarchs and 13 different milkweeds this year. So every
Now,
year.
hold your hand up a little bit, because you can see the other butterfly now is almost the same size as the first one.
And her wings and his wings are still wavy because they're still soft. So he is still working on his proboscis. And as he's doing that, what he's doing is he's taking the fluid from his abdomen and pumping it through the plaque lines, which is the veins. And in about a half an hour, what's going to happen is he's going to drop meconium, which basically means his wings are completely full. Yeah.
Okay. So he doesn't need what he was storing inside for them anymore?
Nope.
So that's just the leftover? Okay.
So I can still see his proboscis is split into two. So he's still working on gluing them shut, the two parts.
So if somebody wanted to get a butterfly kit at home, I'll put up your contact information, but what are the steps that they should take to start it?
Well,
Like if they get a kit from you, when they go home, what's the first thing they need to do?
they have to unplug every air freshener in their house.
Okay.
Monarchs are extremely sensitive to chemicals. So if they're using oil, flea and tick oil on their dog, I always suggest never touching the butterfly. Use a glove, because that will instantly kill the butterfly within probably an hour. Last year at the Jubilee, I had the kids and I had quite a few caterpillars or butterflies come out, and I was letting people hold on to them, and at the very end, one lady says, "Oh, can I try it?" I'm like, "Absolutely." The second, like within 5 seconds of her holding the butterfly, it started acting drunk. Its legs were going slower and it was wobbling, and I immediately said, "Do you happen to have dogs?" And she said, "Oh yeah, she has 3 of them." And I said, "What kind of flea and tick control?" And she used them. So within 5 seconds, it was already affecting. And I'm sure she washed her hands plenty of times, because this was already 6 o'clock at night. She was there all day. But yeah, they're extremely sensitive.
What about if you put hand cream on or anything like that? So no, I mean, I don't have hand cream on my hands now, but
Yeah, no, I
don't ask me
always-
why I didn't do that today. But when I went and washed up, usually I throw it because we're washing your hands so much now, I'm putting hand cream on, but today I did not.
Yeah, so I personally don't use hand cream, definitely scented hand cream, absolutely nothing. When we go egg hunting, we can't even use off. That's how bad it is. So we're battling mosquitoes and everything else on us. But yeah, so I always tell them unplug air fresheners, air purifiers, the oil diffusers, anything that's fragrant should be removed from the house. And obviously, if they have pets, I always ask them before they leave, do you happen to have a dog that uses the oil? The pill form, perfectly fine. But the oil, absolutely dangerous to the monarchs. So, but the kit, because they don't eat for the first 24 hours, there's no feeding involved. So when they get a kit, they would get a kit similar to, oh,
Here's another one coming out, look at that.
And that looks like it's a female based on her abdomen. And she's working on her proboscis as well. And butterflies always come out during the day, usually in the morning, where moths actually come out at night. So a kit is basically a big open jar with material on the bottom just to catch zirconium. And I also have a ribbon, so in case the butterfly does happen to fall, it can climb back up. But I always ask, if they're around and they see the butterfly did lose its grip, just to simply put your finger in and it can help them up, back up again. And then an hour after they emerge, they can take photos with it. And the photos last a lifetime, the memories last a lifetime. And that's the whole beauty of it, is that you get to see something and hold something that you never thought you could do before. Every year we go to Heinz Hospital, Heinz Hospital. Absolutely wonderful. To be able to let the vets hold a butterfly that they never thought was possible. They're the best, absolutely best audience ever. And I also go to nursing homes, because that also is nice. Now with the COVID, things have changed a little bit.
It's changed for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I'm staying away from both right now until we get the all clear. Which I'm sure, I'm hoping by the time October goes, that I will be able to go back to the Heinz and nursing homes, even if I have to wear a mask. So,
I mean, for us, we've been taking over care packages to Meadowbrook, because they were hit very hard.
right.
And we learned they needed a lot of things, so we brought puzzles and coloring books and crayons and word puzzles and snacks and candy, so that the residents and maybe staff can make use, because I'm sure it was very hard. It's got to be hard when you're watching people you care for pass away, knowing there's nothing you can do for them.
Right. And as far as the nursing homes go, only one works with me, because I can't tell them, hey, Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'm going to have butterflies emerging. So they want a 2-week advance notice, except one in Bolingbrook allows me to send a text message to the programmer, the lady who's in charge of the events, to say, hey, we're going to have butterflies tomorrow, can I come over? So they're absolutely wonderful. And it's great photos, just great memories, everything around. And I do try to get the kids to come too, because I know how important it is for them to see younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a request. And my daughter usually comes with me, my son, and he's 15.
He's not that age.
It's
yet.
not cool anymore,
It's not cool right now, Mom.
Not at all. But he is going to want to drive, and when he wants to drive, he will drive me to my milkweed hunting grounds if he wants to take my car. So,
Very good. Well, this has been very educational and informative, and let me tell you, I just love that I'm holding this butterfly. And I can't believe yours looks even bigger than the other one now.
yeah, and they do come in different sizes. The bigger the butterfly does not necessarily mean it's a male. I've actually had the tiniest butterfly be a male, and I did do the tagging because every year Monarch Watch wants you to tag. I'm not a proponent of that, simply because if you are notified that they found your butterfly, it's because it was dead. So I don't want to ever be told that, hey, my butterfly made it to Mexico, but was one of the ones that died during the winter.
So not knowing, you just always, it's there and it's safe.
Yes, and when you tag, they want you to place a tag only on one week. They already have a challenge coming from Illinois going all the way to Mexico. Adding the tag, regardless of where at on the butterfly, has to add just a little bit of more of a burden. So I am not.
Well, not only that, I'm thinking, okay, I thought maybe you tag on both sides so that you're equal.
That's what I would think too.
I mean, aside from the weight,
Yeah.
you know, there's little as they are, still a lot of weight, but then, you know, you carry something in your hand and you know you're a little slightly off.
And they do adjust, but again, it adds that little bit more of a challenge to them. There's a lot of people who raise butterflies, and what they'll also do is they'll remove the chrysalises off their web, because caterpillars always have webbing. So wherever a caterpillar goes, just like spider, they leave webbings. And right before they turn into a jade, which is the stage right before a chrysalis, this is one that is jading right now. He actually looks like a jade. This is his last molting. What happens is the butterfly or the caterpillar will create a button of a web. It's just basically a white ball of web, and then attach its back end to it. And when it molts one last time, that back end turns into something called cremaster, which is just a little bitty black stick. But the tip of that stick has thousands of little Velcro hooks, which is what it attaches to the webbing, the web button. It's going to be another one coming up from here. This one is just coming out right now.
You were so right that they were gonna be popping.
Yeah. So they have little hooks on their feet that they're grabbing. He's holding on to the shell. And this one's a female. And her abdomen is extremely swollen right now, because it has all the bottom fluid that it's going to be coming.
So that gets smaller and smaller as their wings get bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And then that's what the liquid is that they secrete once they've reached where they're gonna reach.
Correct. So I'm just going to let her grab onto the mesh.
All right, now that these other butterflies have, you know, once they're reached with their wings are a little stiff, are they able then to be released out in the wild, or do you still hang on to them for a little bit?
I hold on to them for about 5 hours, just because if you lay them on plants, and I
And
can.
look at this one, it's starting now, look at it moving.
Yeah. And right before they actually fly, because you can see he's standing up tall, so he's actually exercising his wings. Yeah. So he's about 2 hours old right now. So we could put this guy on here. So what happens is if I happen to leave a butterfly that's less than 5 hours old on a flower, it's easy pickings for birds. Because they can't get away. They have no defense mechanism except for the fact that they have eaten milkweed, and the sap makes them supposedly poisonous. But most birds that go after monarchs are first time, they were born this year, so they have no idea that monarchs don't taste good. So by the time a bird will go ahead and try to snack on a monarch, the monarch's gone. They can't survive it. So a lot of books and articles will say that the monarchs are poisonous. They're not. The birds never die after they eat a monarch. I had a praying mantis that I did not know I had a praying mantis eat at least one of my monarchs that I had placed on the flower, because I was leaving for the day and I came back and they were just bees. And it's a learning experience. Everything with the butterfly is a learning experience. Every year I've cried when I lost them, and every beginning of the season I would say this is going to be the year I don't cry over the death of a caterpillar or butterfly. I've yet to have a dry.
Well, you put so much into it, so, I mean, even, it's kind of like you mentioned earlier when we started, a pet.
Yeah.
You have it for a short time, but it's still sad when it goes.
And it is a lot of work. A lot of people are like, oh, I want a caterpillar, I want a caterpillar. I'm like, I can't. Because unless I know for sure they have established milkweed in their yard, and they're not using chemicals in their yard, and I don't really want to take the chance on giving somebody a caterpillar unless I know for sure that the caterpillar is going to make it. In our library, I actually am teaching them how to raise monarchs, and they're doing good. They actually have a monarch garden now.
Wow.
With lots of milkweed. It's not necessarily seen by the public. It's a little bit hidden. Again, they don't want kids to trample on it or pick milkweed and injure themselves. But during their normal business hours now with the COVID, they've been closed. But yet, I've always supplied them for the last 3 years with anything from an egg to younger caterpillars. So there's 5 instars, which is 5 different stages of a caterpillar. So they molt 5 different times before they become a chrysalis. When they become a chrysalis, that's actually the last time they molt. And Bolingbrook Fountaindale Library, awesome job, absolutely awesome job. And the kids absolutely love going just to check to see how big the caterpillars are. They double in size almost every day, without a doubt.
I mean, just looking at how they're growing now is amazing.
Yeah.
Right in front of us here.
Yeah, this one's wings are still soft, and if I say still, you could actually see he's opening and closing his wings. So he's still, there he goes. He's now just squeezed and closed, and now he's going to be opening them up shortly. And that's just another way to get the blood to flow through the veins correctly. But they are absolutely gorgeous. And they're the only butterfly that does a full migration.
Oh, really?
Now, I also believe, since wherever you release these butterflies, I truly believe that their great-great-great-grandkids know, hey, this is a safe place to be raised. Because usually, our backyard is one of the first ones to get the eggs in Bolingbrook. But I've been doing it for 12 years. So, but there's really no way to prove it.
Well, since you're always the first, it has something to it.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about it, they know where to go to Mexico. The ones that are going to Mexico has never been there, but yet they're programmed to know. So why can't they be programmed to have their great-grandchildren come back to where they were born? It makes sense, at least in my house.
It sounds logical to me, okay? It does.
So yeah, you have about a 3-hour window to take photos with them. The hardest thing is getting kids to release the butterflies, but there are rules that I set with kids. I always ask them to please name each butterfly, because if they don't, then the butterfly spends the rest of their life without a name. And if they know somebody who passed away, they could always whisper a message to the butterfly, and the butterfly would deliver it to the person there. So, it is nice. And it makes the kids want to release them. I had quite a few customers this year, brand new customers say, oh my God, their daughter or their son cried. And they didn't want to release it, but they had an extra chrysalis. And only one butterfly could fit in this kit at one time. So a lot of people ask me, can I buy more than one chrysalis so I could have several butterflies to come out on the same day? The answer is always no. They could buy additional chrysalises that will emerge on a different day, but not on the same day. And again, it's because butterflies have to be safe. It's not about me making them. If it was, then I did. So 10 of them in the same place. to see the monarchs survive more than anything. So it is fun, it's educational, it's intriguing, and special. So if you take a look, you can see.
Now, are these always the colors that they'll be? Like this one on this side here is like the tan with the black veins, and when she opened her wings, it was more of a
Dark.
rusted color in there.
Yep, every single butterfly is the same. There are albino butterflies. I've yet to see them, but I have seen pictures of them. Their chrysalises are white.
So you know ahead of time that they'll be albino then if you see the white.
Yes,
ones.
if
Okay.
you see it, without a doubt. And this is just a sample. These butterflies were from last year after a neighbor sprayed her yard. The butterflies, the caterpillars that were making a jade and turning into a chrysalis, never did survive. So this is basically what happens when they come in contact with chemicals. And yes, I did cry when these guys. Oh, I had last year in October, after we had our frost, I was at the golf course looking for seeds, and out came a female butterfly, extremely thin, and she survived somehow. There was absolutely no milkweed, no flowers around, and it already frosted twice. And as I was walking out from the field, she flopped out and was just flopping on the ground, literally 2 feet away from me.
Wow.
How she knew, I have no idea, but it was my daughter's birthday. I swooped her up, I put her in the bag, I brought her home, and my daughter figured she'd just keep her alive for the month by just feeding her. And I decided to do a triple wing transplant and survived, and she was able to fly away. Now, did she make it to Mexico? Probably not, because it was already very late in October. And I don't know if it would make it 3,000 miles away. But I have successfully done about 6 transplants, 2 of them being triple wing transplants.
Now, what does the transplant involve?
It involves using butterflies that did pass away, using their hardened wings and basically super gluing them, cutting the deformed wing on the good butterfly and replacing it with a wing from a deceased butterfly. So I do keep the butterflies if they happen to die, kind of like this. This is one of my tools that I bring to my fests that just show the difference between the wings and what the difference between the male and female is. But had I not used these would have been ideal wings for wing transplants. But the first one I did, she did not fly away, so she ended up just being a pet for the month for my daughter. And my daughter really enjoys keeping them longer than she should, so I only agreed to let her take the ones that can't fly away. But other than that, we do release all of them. And this year, I've sold and released over 250 kits.
Wow.
So there are over 250 new butterflies flying around. And they can fly up to 100 miles away, so they don't necessarily have to stay in Bolingbrook, or the ones that they fly up to towards Canada, which is the furthest north they could go.
Yeah, and then that's even further for them to get to Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't go that way.
And not all butterflies migrate. Some of them stay in Texas, some of them stay in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So I also do wedding releases, memorial releases. Like this Wednesday, we're doing a memorial release for a lady a nurse who passed away in Bolingbrook.
Is she a young woman?
I don't know the details. I try not to get too involved.
No, the only reason I ask is my daughter's a preschool teacher,
Yeah.
and probably about 6 weeks ago, one of her students' mom passed away. She was a nurse at Middlebrook. And my daughter also had her older child, and beyond, she has a baby,
Yeah.
and they live in Bolingbrook.
Yeah, last year at the farmer's market, I was asked to bring a memorial kit with a butterfly in it for the guy who designed the promenade. And on each memorial box, I have a unique poem. And as we were walking to meet the wife and the family, the young daughter, she's like, well, can you go ahead and read the poem? And I thought to myself, sure, I didn't know him. I'm not going to cry. Oh my God, I cried so I couldn't even get through the poem. And I didn't even know him. So I'm too involved. I'm too involved. So this Wednesday, I'm just going to go to the nursing home. Not the nursing home. I'm going to go to the funeral home and deliver the boxes there, these boxes, and that can be distributed. So yeah, I don't know how old the nurse is, but I believe she was a nurse at Bolingbrook Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Is what I was told.
So then that's another one.
Yeah.
So sad, every life that was lost.
But there's definitely a connection between butterflies and people who pass away. They say that if a butterfly lands on you, it's somebody who passed away and they're trying to tell you that they're still around. So I truly believe there's a connection.
I hear that with the red cardinal, that if you see a red cardinal, it's somebody from up above trying to reach out.
It could be. My grandfather, that was his favorite bird. His seven birds. And unfortunately, I wish I could have had him hold on to a butterfly before he passed away, but he passed away literally about 3 months before I started this process. So, but I'm sure he's looking down.
This one's really going with the wings now.
Yeah. He's getting stronger and stronger. In the first flight, usually if he does decide to leave, and the chillier it is in the room, the less likely they're going to fly because it should be at least over 65 degrees and not raining when we release them. If it is raining or we have some cold snap, I always tell my customers just keep them open and releasing them. But what happens is right before they fly away, and when we were at Hines Hospital, my daughter was walking through the cafeteria with one, and all of a sudden it lifted its legs like yours is, and I said, Caitlin, I think he's going to take off, and sure enough, the butterfly just took off. Everyone at Hines.
I have a little liquid on my finger now.
And that would be me. They say that's good luck though, butterfly pleasing. And it should be clear.
It's clear.
Yep. Just extra body fluid.
I'm like, I know I didn't have wet on my hand. No droplets.
They are pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly though once it happens. I mean, Mother Nature in general is amazing when you stop and think about everything that goes on.
Yeah.
But these little guys, very quickly.
And again, I use milkweed bouquet. I am absolutely okay with teaching people how to do it and how to save the monarchs. And I truly believe we can save monarchs one monarch at a time. It just takes little bitty steps and educating.
Now, when they went on the endangered species list, if we can save enough of them, how many do there have to be before they come off?
I don't think they ever will, because humans are so dependent on chemicals.
So you think it'll be constant?
Yeah, we went to Tennessee several years ago, and I had asked them why they had milkweed, and I had asked the ranger, like, why aren't there any monarchs? And they said that they do area sprays. And he hasn't seen monarchs in years. I went to the Bahamas, Atlantis, Bahamas with the kids 2 years ago. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. Everything is wonderful. No mosquitoes. You don't have to spray. There's absolutely zero mosquitoes. There's also zero butterflies. And when I had asked the staff at Atlantis, I'm like, where are butterflies? And they said they haven't seen butterflies since they were kids. And it's because the whole island just sprays to get rid of mosquitoes. Because the tourists don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So there's, until people stop becoming dependent on chemicals and wanting the perfect lawn, they'll ever become off the endangered list. And they are also Illinois insect. So there's definitely a connection between Illinois and monarchs.
Well, they're beautiful, that's for sure.
It's dropping us
Mine is dripping down my finger. I could feel it now in between.
They also taste with their feet. So if you ever do see a monarch and you land on a milkweed leaf, 100% of the time it will be a female. And if she feels based on the feet that this is definitely milkweed, she'll go ahead and lay her egg. And that the males have no reason to ever land on a milkweed leaf unless there's a flower.
So they would only go to the flower for food,
Yes.
otherwise that's it. Okay.
And usually one female will lay one egg per plant. So if you find a plant with more than one egg,
Multiple butterflies with it?
multiple butterflies. They're truly fascinating.
Very. Well, you gave us a wealth of knowledge today, Cindy, I'll tell you that.
And I am trying to get into the different Bolingbrook schools, because I know they continuously order painted ladies, kids, in the spring for the butterfly releases to teach the kids about nature. But the difference between a monarch and a painted lady is a monarch has to be fed organic, non-tainted milkweed, whereas if you buy a painted lady kit, you're basically feeding them nothing but chemicals. There's no need for them.
And they survive with that. There's no,
I don't know how many survive. I've seen kids. I've read their direction. Their directions, their instructions say that you could keep the butterfly as a pet. You don't even have to release it. I think that's wrong. I don't think we should ever have to keep or be allowed to.
I used to work for International Paper, and we used to sell the butterfly, actually, I shouldn't say sell, they used to give them to schools every year. We did it in April, so the school could write a letter to them or an email, and they would send them a couple of kids to do. So I did it a couple of times for my daughter with the preschool, but I couldn't tell you what they were.
It would have been painted ladies because monarchs don't come out here in Illinois until generally after the schools are let out, where the painted ladies usually come out in beginning of May.
Okay, that's right. I just don't remember what it was.
And monarchs, they are just so nice and calm. Painted ladies, within 15 minutes, they're frantic. They don't want to be held. They want to fly away.
Maybe that's the chemicals in them.
It could be. I also raise black swallowtails, eastern black swallowtails. And their host plant is, there's probably about 5 of them. Rue is one, dill is another one, fennel, Queen Anne's lace, and carrot tops, and wild parsnip. So I have about 10 different eastern black swallowtails going into chrysalises right now at home. And when they emerge out of their chrysalis, you only have about 20 minutes, and they're done. You will never sit on your finger longer than 10 minutes. They just won't do it. They're little pregnant as well, and they eat organic. I did make a mistake. Last year I ran out of dill, And so I ran to Home Depot and I bought organic dill plant, fed it to my caterpillars, they all died. And I contacted the plant company and said, hey, I bought organic dill for my eastern red swallowtails and they all died. What did you spray them with and why? And she said, this is a representative from the plant company, said that dill or that organic does not mean chemical free, which I did not know. She said that they still spray it to stop the caterpillars from eating their.
I always thought when it said organic that you didn't have any spray or anything like
I
that.
did too, but all of my caterpillars actually died. And I was shocked. So it's vital for those that are raising eastern black swallowtails to again have an organic garden. Don't use fertilizer, don't use weed control, and definitely don't buy organic dill at the grocery store thinking that's chemical free or even a plant, unless you know that grower grew it themselves and did not use chemicals. I still haven't figured out how legally they can say that it's organic when they're still spraying it. So, that's it. That is the monarch story.
I just love when the wings open up.
And they're just, right now, they're just not strong enough to fly away.
Now, looking at this one, it looks like the legs even got a little thicker from when I first put them on my finger. Is that possible, or am I imagining it?
What's happening is your butterfly is standing up straighter.
Oh, is that the difference then?
Yes, so
Okay.
you are, because you can see on this one,
Mm-hmm.
the
See, they just look thinner. Now they look thicker. Then I wondered if the legs just got a little stronger.
I think they do. I think muscular-wise, I saw that one lifting up and going down. So it's definitely just preparing for its flight. But again, it's not going to be ready for a few more hours. And I also, part of my whole process, and a lot of people say, oh, it must be easy to raise caterpillars. There are days that I'm up until 3 o'clock in the morning feeding the caterpillars. So it's no easy task at all. And again, it's emotional when you happen to end up feeding them plants that were sprayed without realizing it. I am trying to reach out and to educate our park district for the importance of not spraying. And if they do want to spray the noxious weeds, to truly spray them at the base, not on top, because the wind will take them and carry the spray and contaminate them out. It's happened, I've seen it when I go around certain parks and ponds.
Wow.
So, and hidden oaks also raises butterflies, so people could go there and take a look at them when they open to the public, as well as our public.
Well, some of it is open over there. I don't know if it's outside they can see it, because I know they have the bees there too.
Correct. Their growing station is indoors.
Indoors,
So they
okay.
raise indoors. Yeah. I just spoke to John last week.
John Chase.
Yes. In January, or July 11th, he wants me to come by for a presentation, to do an educational presentation for anyone who's going by. That's the same day as the, and then going on from the STEM Club is also having a huge presentation day as well.
Is the timing different that you could meet? They're all the same, so you gotta pick and choose them?
I'm going to have my mom do the vendor fair for a couple hours as I sneak away to try to do the presentation. But that's if I have caterpillars and butterflies. I don't think it's going to be very interesting if they don't. But he wants me there anyway, so we'll see. But yes, I will have my mom take my spot in the vendor fair just for an hour or so. As I step away.
Well, that's you know, when they first open and get going, maybe it's a little on the slow side.
She'll be fine. She knows what
And then
she's
people start coming, then the children will be there.
doing. No, she'll be fine. I also had one of my first students in Bolingbrook said that she would come and help my mom too. And she's been helping me for 3 years.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she's become a very good teacher herself. I think she has 15 chrysalises, and I think 2 of them emerged yesterday. So,
Very nice.
yes, it's very possible to learn and to help, and that will make a difference.
I'm still amazed that this little guy is just, I shouldn't say guy because I have a female.
No, that one's male.
Oh, it is, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I got a female. Anyway, but he's just sitting there so nicely.
He's just hanging out.
Yeah. I had a beer, I'd offer it to you.
A lot of people want to feed the caterpillars Gatorade. I personally don't. The main reason is my kid's pediatrician said that Gatorade is not good for children. It's not promoted towards children. Therefore, if it's not healthy for children, it can't possibly be healthy for butterflies.
I think Gatorade has so much sugar in it that they don't need it, maybe?
Right, so what I do is I use 7 parts, it's 6 part water, 1 part honey. And actually get the honey from our local beekeeper here in Bolingbrook, so I know it's 100% organic. Butterflies absolutely love it. Yeah. So, and it's natural, no chemicals, so it's definitely good for them. But right before they become a jade, what I do is, as the caterpillars are nice and big, right at the tail end, right before they become a chrysalis, I actually move them from the milkweed bouquet and I put them in their individual, I call it suite, which is basically a cup. And I put them in here, that way they're not bothered by any other caterpillars. And you can hold them. And they don't bite. They actually feel healthy.
You know what they remind me of? The caterpillar. Seeing you just do this, you know those little bugs that when you touch them, they curl up, and I'm watching him curl up when he was just...
That's their defense mechanism. They have nothing to defend themselves with, so they do curl. Did you want to pet him real quick? And he has 2 sets of antennae.
Right here, and then, but these are smaller ones.
So which one do you think is the front, which one do you think is the back?
Well, I'm going to say maybe the smaller ones is the front. The what?
Yeah, so this looks like he has a mask.
Yes, I thought it had eyes there. That's why I picked that one.
No, his eyes are in front. This is the front, so the taller antennas are always the front. And the back one, it does look like he has a mask again, because they have absolutely nothing to protect them with. So nature just designed them to look like they have a fix in the back to try to work.
See, normally, if you would have just asked, I would have picked the big ones.
Yeah.
But when I saw the back, I'm like, those look like eyes, so I'm probably going to pick the smaller ones.
Yeah, they can hold upside down with their body. They're pretty cool. They do have eyes, but they're so tiny you can't see them.
So they were just fake what I was seeing in the back then.
That is definitely a fake face, correct. And they are sensitive to sound as well, so when no, he's not quite ready yet. When they are a jade, I always ask, if one of my customers is buying a jade caterpillar, I would just remind them to try to keep the room quiet. It's kind of like labor. They're going through such an important phase at that point that the more calm they are, the better chance that they will be able to make it into a chrysalis. And last year, somebody had asked for a caterpillar, and they do have milkweed, so I still gave on. And I said, but when the caterpillar crawls up to the top, don't let the kids touch them, the caterpillars go into the top to start making the jade. Her son continued to touch the caterpillar and he would not make it.
Oh.
Yeah. But again, it's a learning experience. He was a Boy Scout, and he knows better now. You know, and again, it's all educational. I've made mistakes as well. There really is no how-to book, and if you ask 10 different people, hey, how do you raise monarchs, they all have different ways. I just, in my eyes, I've perfected it. It took 12 years, but I have the least amount of damage done to the butterflies and the caterpillars if I place the caterpillar in a cup before it becomes a jade. Because while it's becoming a jade, if there are more caterpillars, just like you saw earlier, they will go ahead and bite the caterpillar, and the caterpillar is going to fall and be dying. So this way, they have a better chance of surviving if they are separated. I also don't have smaller caterpillars with the bigger ones, because if they do come face to face, the bigger one will nip at the smaller one and cause major damage. So there's a lot of work to it, but it's fun.
It's amazing. Like, I didn't know they would fight with each other.
Yeah,
They're antisocial.
They are antisocial, and if you think about it, if a monarch lays an egg, it's usually one egg per plant. So they, in nature, aren't really social insects. The eastern black swallowtails absolutely gets along perfectly well. And if they're walking right to each other, they don't nod, but the bigger one will keep walking, and the slightly smaller one will just turn, and they do not. I've never seen an eastern black swallowtail nip at each other, where I have seen monarchs.
Wow. Very interesting. Well, Cindy, I appreciate you taking the time coming in here and with all your butterflies and giving us an education, that's for sure. And everybody, if you want to learn more about butterflies and caterpillars, you'll see Cindy's number down below. Give her a call, send her an email, and she'll be happy to answer any questions.
And I'll also be at the farmer's market or the street market.
Okay,
Starting
in
July
July?
3rd. In Bolingbrook.
And at Hidden Oaks.
On July 11th.
Very nice. Yeah, because this show's going to air all throughout July then.
Oh,
It'll be ready to go
perfect.
with that.
And monarch season, the last kit that I would be selling is like the first week in October. And once you physically have a kit, I don't force anyone to have to buy another kit. As long as they have the kit the following year, all they have to do is come back and say, hey, I want an extra chrysalis, and we sell the chrysalises for $5 each. So it's not very expensive at all, and it's more of an educational